This video and podcast is brought to you by the Kulkarni Law Firm. Reach out to the Kulkarni Law Firm for advice on PRC review, MRC review, developing SOPs, training, audit compliance, and more. Reach out to Darshan at kulkarnilawfirm.com or call me at 302-252-6959. Or you can just visit our website at DarshanTalks.com or visit the law firm website at kulkarnilawfirm.com. That's KULKARNI lawfirm.com. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. My name is Darshan Kulkarni. I'm really excited to be here because I get to speak to Dr. Mendoza, Javier Mendoza, who is a leading authority on the space of the metaverse, and he's a bit of a futurist. So I'm actually excited to talk to him because there's so much going on. So stay tuned. We'll talk a little bit more. But before we do, Dr. Mendoza, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, well, thank you first for the nice invitation, Darshan. I'm a medical doctor, gastroenterology with international clinical experience. Since 2017, I have been in the digital health area. So I believe that technology can help to have a better healthcare. And in the last year, I have been focusing metaverse and healthcare. That I think it's an amazing topic. There are many people skeptics and some evangelists. So yeah, let's talk about this.
So let's start with the beginning. There's a whole push right now. There's a whole conversation right now, especially in October of 2022, where they're saying that Facebook is wrong about betting the entire everything they've got on the metaverse, and it's failing and it's not taking off. My first question for you, not even getting to the healthcare component, do you see adoption for the metaverse and healthcare to succeed? You first need the metaverse to succeed. So is the metaverse, based on what you're seeing so far, going to succeed in the version we're seeing right now?
I think we are in the beginning, but sometimes I see news and I listen podcasts like you and see why people don't see this potential. For example, Meta, Facebook, you can criticize, but last week was the news. Meta have an agreement with Microsoft and Accenture. So what's happening? So Meta and Microsoft doing things together, that's interesting. Or a few months ago when they say Metaverse need standards to go on and to have interoperability. And it started with a few companies, and now there are more than 150 companies, all the biggest company in the world, included Tencent from China, of course, and not Apple, but the rest, they're all there. So I think we are in the beginning, but I can see in the news that we are moving on.
So it's interesting you say that. And so a couple of things pop up in my mind. So I think if you're a large company, you don't want to be caught in a position where you're not on the metaverse and someone else takes your spot. So I'm not surprised that the large companies are part of it. The question really is, are the small companies becoming part of it? Because that's really the part that matters. Because the large companies have to be there. You couldn't be Louis Vuitton and some guy from rural Namibia takes Louis Vuitton and now you're left without anything. What I'm seeing instead is this push between AR versus VR right now. And again, we're almost, I feel bad for Meta or for Facebook right now because they're fighting a ghost. Because everyone's saying Apple's going to come out with a augmented reality system, not a virtual reality system. And that is how the metaverse will start. I would also argue that people are hesitant in the context of Meta for two different reasons. Well, multiple different reasons. One is the technology is still very, very young. So unless you're an early adopter like me, you're not going and buying the headset. So the technology itself is young. I mean, the big thing that Meta announced in the last week was your avatars are going to have legs. And that's kind of really early. The second thing is, even if the metaverse was going to succeed, the big question is, who owns the metaverse? And if the metaverse is sort of a visualized version of the internet, do we want the visualized version of the internet owned by anyone? So, because you get into issues of privacy, data ownership, etc. And then the last question, as I see it, is if both of those two things are true and someone is going to own the metaverse, are individuals okay with Facebook or Meta being the one to own it when people like Zuckerberg have come out early on? And when he was at Harvard, I remember people saying things like, well, why are people giving you their data? And I remember famously he said something to the effect of, those guys are idiots for giving me their data. So his general demeanor, and again, we've all said stupid things when we were young, so I'm not necessarily holding that against him. I'm more thinking Facebook has famously not been a good custodian of data. We've seen multiple times when we've got leaks and problems, and that's been a continuing problem in the case of Meta and Facebook. So that's not to say others didn't have similar problems, but they just happen to have their own problems. So considering all of that, do you think that this is a false start to the metaverse, not that the metaverse itself won't happen?
I think the first sentence that came to my mind is Meta is not the metaverse. Right. So that's important. We're building this. So I think it's a moment to build these with ethics. And we are not even talking about healthcare. That is a serious game. So it has to be ethics and with a special treatment of healthcare data. The other point, the beginning, the small companies, I think it depends how we're going to go into the metaverse. I'm agree with you that virtual reality, maybe these glasses will be not the solutions, and maybe augmented reality will be winning this battle. But there's another options, like a company like Mojo Lens Vision, that you can put a lens and go into the metaverse. It will be a solution, maybe not for me. I don't like a lens at all, but right. Maybe people will use. How much time? I don't know. It will be like virtual reality, no more than 60, 80 minutes. So we're in the beginning, but I'm here to give this first step to try to build this with ethics, because I have seen in machine learning and artificial intelligence projects many meetings with engineer, informatic, and I think we need healthcare professionals to be there and explain. I like this movement that is, we have the medical doctor, these Hippocratic oaths. There is a technocratic oaths. So your engineer that work with healthcare data, you have to have a special attention about this. I always say the same. With your solution, with your results, can change the diabetes protocol in a hospital. So I like this movement. Explain to another sectors, even that they have high quality and ethics, of course. But hey, listen, this will change protocols. This will change diagnosis and treatment in our patients.
So I love you talk about this technocratic oath. I've never heard that term before. It's kind of an interesting idea. But I wonder how practical it is for two reasons. My first question is, my first thought is, in the case of healthcare, you have people who've been through undergrad and then gone to get graduate school to become medical doctors. They're by definition very, very intelligent, but not just intelligent. I mean, I don't think intelligence is unique to physicians or anyone in healthcare. I think intelligence is pretty universal. But I think that the second part of it, however, is that you're just older by the time you get to it. And you have special quote unquote guilds, but you have groups like the American Medical Association or the like, who can police and say, we're going to hold you to this standard, or we're going to take away your right to practice medicine. You don't quite have any of those things in the case of technology. So you don't have someone, you have 12-year-olds coding. Are you going to tell them that they can't code? Are you going to tell them that you're not coding ethically? So while you can put something like a technocratic oath, how enforceable, and when I say enforceable, how do you even really explain that to a 12-year-old? I mean, our most famous, our most lauded informatics people are Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, who are doing this at 19. So maybe while it sounds like a great thing, it's a difficult thing to pull off. Let's add another complexity to that, which is who enforces that. I talked a little bit about the idea of guilds, but in the case of medical ethics, you graduate from medical school, you actually typically take a class on medical ethics. Like I just mentioned, you self-learn. Many people self-learn how to code. I mean, I've self-learned how to code. So there's no requirement that you take a course on AI ethics, for example, machine learning ethics, or anything like that. You learn what you learn and you enjoy it. So there's nothing that'll stop me. So how do you foresee building a ethical system on top of something that may not have fundamentally may not fundamentally have ethics built into it? And a really good example of that is the efforts made in the case of Google, where they disbanded their ethics group. And there were questions about whether the ethics groups were, because I think it was in the context of machine learning and AI. And there were some very famous ethicists in those areas who said, you need to pay some attention to this. And Google said, it's just easier to get rid of you guys. And I'm sure it wasn't as simple as that, just to be clear. But it's something that we need to think about, which is, you're talking about building an ethical component, but can an ethical component be built on shifting sands?
Would you talk about this? I have something in my mind, is multidisciplinary team. I think that's the key. So if we're sitting talking about a project, it's true that in the medical school you have subjects, and we talk, and we are training for that, and you must show to the different, no, this is the way. So no one show me when I have I see 20 patients, and no one say me, oh, sorry, Javier, you cannot order 20 CT scan in every patient. You cannot. So you follow protocol, and so you are a medical doctor, but you are organize all the complementary tests that you can do. So you are manage this, and you have to have empathy. That is another thing that I think we have to. No. You have to think in the way the people that is inside, they have problem. So when you see IBS patients, so patients that you don't say, no, it's in your head, but you have to explain. So it's in your head, but now the gut is the second brain, so it's connected, more stress, more. So I think multidisciplinary team, talking with the engineer. I love, for example, this story, and I think you will understand. I gastroenterology, and this story in the 90s in Israel. One gastroenterology, and the brother-in-law was engineer. This GI came from the hospital and say, I have a difficult patient with bleeding, but I don't know where is he bleeding? Why? You can do endoscopy, yeah, gastroscopy and colonoscopy, but the small intestine, there are more than 4 meters of intestine that you don't see that. Why? It's crazy. It's nearly 2000. Okay, let's do something. And it became the first project that you swallow the capsule. So you capsuloscopy 2 photos per second, and you see where the patient is bleeding. It's a brother-in-law GI, and another person engineer, and they became this project. I think it's a good example.
It's a great example, and it talks about the value of multidisciplinary teams. However, that system was used in the context of systems that pre-exist, i.e., when will that technology be used? For example, in the context of sort of tracking and doing a duodenoscopy or doing a whatever kind of testing you're doing, it'll be used in the context of specific medical protocols. On the other hand, do I really have control if, they're talking right now, for example, about audio biomarkers. And they're talking about things like your voice may give, and I feel like we're moving away from Metaverse, but it talks about the principles that tie into the Metaverse. People are talking about, you know what? I want to start doing studies to see if your tone will tell me if there's a risk of Alzheimer's, for example. And I forget which disease states they were looking at. My question is, do I really want Amazon looking into whether I have Alzheimer's and not necessarily telling me? Because technically speaking, as long as they don't tell me, at least in the US, as long as they don't tell me that this is the reason we're checking your voice, so it's not intended for medical use, they don't have to disclose to me that they can't collect the data. Now, there's a whole discussion about whether they can collect the data and what are the implications of that. So there are like CCPA issues and the like, but across most of the US, that is not a major issue. And those systems can be built. So I think that the distinction between what you were suggesting and the future is intended use. And the FDA and the research protocols that go into it, and the FDA's purview, and the State Board of Medicine's purview, that oversight is missing in the context of technology. So what would your thought process be around that? While I agree with the concept of multidisciplinary teams, in the end, in a multidisciplinary team, whether or not we like it, the doctor's not the head of that team. The person who codes is the head of that team, because he or she decides what's going to be written, and that's possibly concerning.
We talked last time about the technology going faster than the laws of government, and that's right. But maybe another example that people that things I know, talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about that. I think it's very important explaining artificial intelligence. So explain that it's not a black box. That's the first thing. And artificial intelligence, or that futurist project with a medical doctor, is like, again, sorry, I'm gastroenterology, but there's many projects about polyp detection in when you are doing a colonoscopy. So you say the code has the power, but it's not always right, because when you're doing the colonoscopy, there are many companies that do that now. They show here is a polyp, and the medical doctor had the decision to say, no, it's wrong. I have 20 years experience, it's wrong, and go on or say, oh my goodness, yeah, it was totally right, and I was tired and I didn't see that. So I think it's a combination. We say that healthcare, that medicine is a science, but it's also an art. So we cannot talk, and I'm this movement also. So it's not only technology joined to healthcare and healthcare professional. We must look forward and backwards. And I think technology can help healthcare, but the healthcare professional have to look to look to the patient's eye, listen to them, and has empathy with them. So it's a combination.
Yes, but it's interesting. You picked the example of systems helping you with diagnoses, and you made a statement. And I think you said that AI is not a black box, and I think that's one of the biggest issues with AI right now, which is it is a black box. The interesting part about it is I routinely see headlines like AI finds heart disease 97% of the time or 85% of the time. Like, I'm making up numbers here, but you'll see that. And to me, what that really says is, I don't know what your risk of false positives is. If you say everything has heart disease, you're going to find it 100% of the times. You're just not telling me how many times it's wrong. So it doesn't distinguish between false positives and false negatives. And that's the concern. What is your tolerance that you're setting into the systems? And what is an acceptable level of tolerance? Knowing that you will then misdiagnose a significant number of people. So go ahead.
I think we have to set an accuracy. So behind this number is not acceptable. And that's the difficult thing in the healthcare. But maybe it's more a subject to talk about, but we do this every day. So in many tests, we know that it's 98% or 97%, and we accept it. When it's low, you in the protocol of follow-up, I will not wait until this 5 years protocol, because I'm not quite sure that the false positive was high. So I will do 3 years after. So I think this is the day by day. And this I joined with another conversation we had. So in the metaverse or with projects, what happened if with the information that the patient give to you, you are wrong? But my question is, what happened if the patients have information and have no medical doctor to share and to talk? That can be happen. And when he can, at last 6 months later, he have a colon cancer, for example.
I think the distinction, for me at least, as a human being, between a system that we know is, I'm making this up, right only 95% of the time, versus a human being that is right only 95% of the time. The distinction between both of those two things is that the human being is trying to be right 100% of the time, while an AI is systematically designed not to be right 5% of the time. And that distinction to me is a distinction between life and death. And I think that no one talks about that, as far as I can tell. People accept that statistically they're both the same, and that may 100% be accurate. But from a humanistic standpoint, from an ethical standpoint, I think the distinction of designing a system that is not 100% right is what people struggle with. And that, I think, is a conversation that no one really has. Any thoughts about that distinction?
I think that there's a strong movement of ethics from the beginning, ethics from the code, from artificial intelligence project. So I think there are a lot to do, and we have to be there to try to help. At the same time, in the metaverse, it's now the time to be there and become more ethics. If not, we always have in mind this, will my health data be safe with some companies?
So let's talk about ethics in the metaverse. Let's talk about simple things like, what ethical principle do you follow in the metaverse? Is it better, for example, to say patients own their data, which is a valid ethical position to take? Or is it more valid to take the position that patients don't own any of their data and all data will be used for the greater good of humanity? So all data can be used by Facebook, can be used by Google, can be used by anyone who wants it, so that they design systems that are better for humanity. How do you ethically make that decision? because that's a fundamental component of how the metaverse will be designed.
Absolutely. I think the patients own their health data. That's in the
Why?
middle of
What, ethically, why is that true? I mean, Israel has taken the position that that's not true. Israel said that we'll share all the COVID data we have, and you companies who are designing systems come to Israel because we have data, and this will help you design better systems.
if you have a pandemic, something big, something in the world, you can have this, and it will be a law. The government can see, I'll do this. So it's, I think it's interesting how in some countries, the health data about the COVID was successful, and in the other was a disaster. But I think, yeah, the patients own the data. What happened now is that a corporation, a company, can use your health data to do business, or to use when you don't know that they are using. So I think in the future you can do three things. One, don't use my health data. Second, yes, as you say, my father has lung cancer, and you are asking my health data for a new medication about lung cancer that is doing this pharma company. I give to you, or I want money or token to, okay, you have my health
Monetize.
data, but with this token that you give to me, I will do a CT scan for my hip, for example. So I
So,
think
so
it's three
your
things.
three methods is don't use it when I tell you, or monetize the data. Are your three
Yes,
options?
I think it will be a yeah, logical option.
And but all three are. I agree 100% with you that those are all three logical options, but they're all three very divergent logical options. And which one Facebook chooses is going to be dramatically. They're all ethical options as well. Which ethical option Facebook chooses is the question. And what and do I, as a individual, want Facebook? I keep saying Facebook, but I think Meta. I mean Meta, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea for a single company to have that much data, whether or not they sell it to other companies?
I think that's why we are building a standard, and Meta it has to be no alone. So someone had to be there. If we talk about metaverse, we have another word in mind that is decentralized. I think it's yeah, hypothetical and very nice option of the metaverse, but 100% decentralized. I think is complicated,
Yeah.
but it has to be in some part to be in that way, because if not, company or cannot have all these healthcare projects and data. Something interesting also for me is when I study in digital health, that the hackers pay more money for the health data than for the bank account data. And it's amazing because you have your health account in your smartphone,
Yeah.
but know your health information. And no, but it's only my health information. No, it's very interesting. So at 45 or 50, they will say, hey, marketing for a colonoscopy a clinic close to your house. So yeah, I think there are a lot to talk about ethics and health data manage.
Well, we can keep talking, but we're well over time. But this was amazing as always, Javier. So thank you so much for coming on. Before we go, any last parting words?
Well, I think I feel comfortable in this metaverse and healthcare because sometimes criticize or say something about no until there's not interoperability the metaverse in healthcare will not be a reality, or things that say aesthetics to me, we are very close. So that's why I'm here. So I don't find something that people that think in a different way are so close to me, because I believe that at the end, healthcare and metaverse will be together and will be a big solution, not all, but a big solution for many problems that we will face.
Very cool. Thank you so much. This video and podcast is brought to you by the Kulkarni Law Firm. Reach out to the Kulkarni Law Firm for advice on third-party issues, state board issues, contracting, pharmacy purchase and sales issues, and more, especially in the context of fraud and compliance. Reach out now at darshan@kulkarnilawfirm.com or call me at 302-252-6959. You can also just visit our website at kulkarnilawfirm.com. That's KULKARNI